everyone. So happy that you came out this evening. It's such a thrill to be with you to talk about that joy, that joyous time in our lives called grandparenting. How many of you in the audience can relate to being a baby boomer, rock and roller, and now a grandparent? Who ever thought that would happen in that way? And didn't it happen just like that? I've written a book called Grandparents Rock, the grandparenting guide for the rock and roll generation. Because let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, from the 60s all the way to now, haven't we rewritten all the books on sex, drugs, and rock and roll? And guess what? Right now, we're rewriting the books on grandparenting. I'm here to say that there's a love that comes, and I know that you felt it and you've experienced it, that happens when that moment, when that new baby comes into your life, that is an extension of your generations. And that love can happen in an instant, and sometimes it can take a little while to warm up. You know, we're just not used to this. We've been footloose and fancy-free, out having careers, and now all of a sudden someone's saying to you, guess what? You're going to be a grandparent. Now you have time and you spend time with the kids and you think, geez, we've been to the mall, we've been to the store, I've taken them to the movies, now what am I going to do? Well, that's what you're going to love about reading the stories in Grandparents Rock, the grandparenting guide for the rock and roll generation. I'm going to share not only great ideas of things that you can do, which I know you're going to really, really love, but I'm also going to share with you the reason that you do them, the message that comes behind it, the story, the life memory, the experience that's going to come behind it. That's all what happens when you read these heartwarming stories in Grandparents Rock. I interviewed hundreds and hundreds of interesting people that are out there working and having a life and having amazing experiences with their grandchildren. One such story was written by a lady by the name of Susan. She shares a story about how her grandchildren and she would go for long walks. It's not enough just to go for a long walk. They go on an adventure, and the adventure is hunting for heart-shaped rocks. And what they do with these rocks is they bring them back and they have a garden with all these different rocks of different heart shapes, and they have this beautiful collection. And while they're collecting and bringing the rocks back and she places them in the garden, she gets to talk about love and the expansion that happens to a human soul when you have that deep feeling of love. So it's not just the idea of going for a walk and looking for rocks, it's the opportunity to have that communion, that connection, that shares, that lasts a lifetime, that will be what they talk about for years later. About that time, we went and found that great big rock that was a perfect heart. So these are the stories. This is the reason why I know you're going to love reading Grandparents Rock, the grandparenting guide for the rock and roll generation.